Alright, so here we are with wrap lesson number 3 or 4, depending on where you're at. This one's all about square roots and cube roots. And we just talked about these in class the other week, so they should be pretty familiar. Just like always, if you have any issues after the completion of the lesson, please make sure you stop by and see me during flex. You'll notice that some of my numbers are a little fuzzy. That's just kind of how they got put into the document, but they should be clear on your paper. We're going to do the first problem together. Second one, the teacher will pause, and then we'll come back on and I'll show you the answer to that one, then I'll show you the answers to the other ones once you've completed them. So we're going to start by solving the equation x squared equals 36. So x squared equals 36. In order to undo squaring something, we're going to use the opposite operation, which is square rooting. So the opposite of squaring is square rooting, and the opposite of cubing, or taking something to the third power, is to do a cube root, which we'll get to in a little bit. So I'm going to square root both sides of this, and you should know what the square root of 36 is because it's a perfect square. The square root of 36 is 6. If you're not sure you remember the square root of 36, you do always have the calculator to use as well. Remember with equations that we do have to put that positive negative sign in front of the 6 because we're not sure if positive 6 got put into the problem or if it was negative 6, so we do have to account for both. Go ahead and try problem number 2, then I'll come back and we can talk through that one as well. Alright, now that you've completed number 2, just to go over it with you, n squared equals 361. We're going to square root each side, and when we do that, we're going to get n equaling positive or negative 19. You don't need to know the square root of 361 in your head. It was fine if you used the calculator, which I'm sure most of you did. Biggest thing is make sure you have those positive negative signs there. At this point, I'm going to ask you to try and complete the rest of the worksheet, and then your teacher will turn the video back on and I'll go through the remainder of them. Some of them are evaluating, some of them are simplifying square roots, some of them are cube root equations, and then there's 2 pretty simple word problems at the end. Try your best, and then I will come back on and explain the rest. So for problem number 3, we have 3y squared equaling 147. We need to get rid of the 3 first, so we're going to divide each side by 3. When we divide each side by 3, we get y squared equaling 49. At this point, we can square root each side and get y equaling positive or negative 7 as our answer. For problems 4, 5, and 6, everywhere you see an A, you're going to plug in 48. Everywhere you see a B, you're going to plug in 12. And then you're just going to follow order of operations. So number 4 is the square root of 48 plus negative 12. Always change your subtraction to plus the opposite. That's going to give you the square root of 36, which we now know is 6. And that's the answer to number 4. 5, the square root of 12 squared. Oh, let me erase that and start over. So the square root, there we go, of 12 squared minus 48 plus 15. Order of operations says exponents first, so the square root of 144 minus 48 plus 15. Now we can do parentheses, so it's going to give us the square root of 144 plus negative 63. I did change my subtraction that time to plus the opposite. That's going to give me the square root of 81 when I do the subtraction, and the square root of 81 is 9 for the answer to number 5. Number 6, negative 2 times the square root of 48 times 12. Multiplication first, that's negative 2 times the square root of 576. The square root of 576 is actually 24. And then negative 2 times 24 is going to give us negative 48 as our answer. For 7, 8, and 9, we're going to simplify the following square roots. What you need to do is you need to think of two numbers that multiply to give you 8. One of them needs to be a perfect square. Remember, our list of perfect squares are 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100, 121, and 144. So two numbers that multiply to give me 8. One of those two numbers must be on this list. So it's going to be the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. We can take the square root of 4. The square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 2 would not come out to be a whole number, so we leave it as the square root. So 2 root 2 as our answer. 40 is actually going to break down into 4 and 10. So the square root of 4 times the square root of 10. And the square root of 4 is a perfect square, 2. And the square root of 10 just comes down. 200. I'm not going to worry about the negative right now. That's going to break down into 2 times the square root of 100. Square root of 100 is a perfect square, giving me 10. And then the square root of 2 is going to bump to the back. At this point, the negative will come down and make it negative 10 root 2 as our final answer. (10, 11, and 12 are some cube root equations. These are calculator based. You're just going to plug them into the calculator. So you're going to cube root 64, the little 3's there above the cube root symbol, and we're going to cube root the 64 on this side. That's going to give me x equaling 4. Number 11, we need to divide each side by 5 first. That's going to give me x cubed equaling 8. Cube root, those cancel out, and the cube root of 8 is 2. 12, we have x cubed is 27. We're going to cube root, and that's going to give me x equaling 9. Problems were word problems. Sue is planning a garden for her backyard. She wants her garden to be a square with a total area of 121 square feet. How long should each side of her garden be? Well, in order to find area, we have to take length times width. And if it's a square, my length and my width are going to end up becoming the same length. So basically what we have here is we have x squared equaling 121. Her length times her width, which are her same numbers, have to give us 121. So we're going to square root, and we're going to get x equaling 11. You'll notice I didn't put positive or negative 11 this time, I just put 11. The reason I just put 11 is we can't have a negative 11 distance. The length of her garden can't be negative 11 feet. It can only be 11 feet. So you only have to put down the answer that makes sense. Here we have an aquarium in the shape of a cube. Has a volume of 3.375 cubic feet. What is the length of one side? Similar to problem 13, but this time we're looking at a cube. So my length, my width, and my depth are all going to be the same amount. So x cubed equals 3.375. We're going to cube root each side of the equation. And when we do that, we figure out that x is 1.5 feet. So that's cubes and cube roots. If you have any questions on any of this or any of the other RAP lessons you've seen so far, again, please make sure that you come and see me.